Okay.
What's up?
Sir, what's your name, please?
James Nobles,
It's Parker.
Parker.
Stephanie Parker.
Okay.
All right, so we don't have to worry about that.
Two.
What's that? Yeah. Hey, when you guys start talking, I'm not sure the lights. Yeah, I'll go over. Yeah, I appreciate it. All right, yeah, I should be ready to go.
We're up.
I guess I should. Some of them on one day still. And this is the one that's coming up. This is the next one, she said.
Move to the 20th of September.
Or was that last
No,
week?
we did them last week.
That was the one we did last week, yeah.
When
I'm
September's
sorry, I was thinking September 12th.
17th.
Yeah.
12th.
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 These two were moved to the 12th.
Yeah, moved to 9/12.
So these two are off. And this one is at 10:45. If these didn't show. These didn't show. 'Cause he told me, he said, I thought we had settled all those. And I said, we need to call the tax assessors, and Tommy said they have.
Might be the first time gone through 2 cases on time.
It makes up for last week. That first case took an hour.
Well, I had to get started early on something I did. Drops walked in.
Are you waiting for 9:30 in case
Yeah.
no show? Yeah.
We need to.
You agree with that?
No, I definitely agree with that. No, if I was back in my 30s, I don't know. It was a different time back in 1947.
That's when I was born, so I don't know.
Well, then you know,
Mm.
different time, different world.
Oh, yeah, that's for sure.
Tommy, did Billy have any information on the Mantell properties?
He does. How about that?
Thank you, sir.
All right, the 9:30 hearing is gonna be Mark and Courtney Mantell. You want to come up to the front table, please?
I think we should finish the Upper River Road. I vote to accept what the tax
All right.
assessor has.
The board's unanimous on the accepting the tax assessor's evaluations for Upper
Thank you.
River Road. Lisa Goff,
Thank you.
keep it straight. All right, good morning. We're the County Board of Equalization. My name is Lenny Elsperman. To my left is Mr. Larry Oxford, and to my far left is Mr. Dan Howard. We are appointed by the grand jury to hear appeals of property tax matters that include the value, uniformity of value, taxability, denial of homestead exemptions, and denial of special assessments. We are not connected with the tax assessor's office or any other county officials. We will listen to both sides of this appeal and make a decision based upon the information presented by both sides in this hearing. We hope you have the opportunity to read the rules and regulations we sent to you and the notice of the date and time of the hearing. The board will give the property owner the option to present information first. If, however, the property owner wishes, the board will require the tax assessors to present information first. The board will allow each party to present information without interruption. Upon completion of each party's presentation, both parties will be given an opportunity to cross-examine, rebut, or question each other in an orderly fashion as directed by the board. When all information has been presented, the board shall deliberate and make a decision. The deliberation shall be among only board members only, and no further input shall be allowed from the property owner or the tax assessors. Upon completion of this deliberation, the board shall make a decision. The decision shall be announced at the conclusion of the deliberations. The written and signed decisions shall be delivered by hand with written receipt or by certified mail to the taxpayer. The original copy of the final decision will be filed with the County Board of Tax Assessors. If either party is not satisfied with this decision, that party has the right to appeal this decision to the Superior Court of the county. Are there any questions? What is your preference? Would you like to present your information?
Yeah, this one.
Pardon me?
First.
Okay. And you, Mr. Mark?
Mr. Mansell, should I start?
Yes.
You need to
Can
come
I-
up
can I-
here. Yeah, needs to come up to the podium.
Here, Stan.
Please, the tribunal. Before we get into the meat and potatoes of this, I think we do have a very solid ground to lower the value of the house. But it is not normally my personality or nature to create hearings and scandals and a fuss of this nature. We have some personal reasons outside of this hearing that we need the value of the house lower for about a year. Now I won't get into that because I know that's not relevant for the purposes of this hearing, but essentially if you could knock off about 30 or 40 grand for a year, you're not gonna see my face ever again. Number one, and then number two, we're very discreet people. We're not gonna advertise because I know you don't want half the county asking for hearings about this sort of thing. So we have some other reasons. Now this is a historic house, and we look at this as a sacred trust to uphold this property. It's has a long history. The prior owner had visited us, and it's been in that family for almost a century. So I think the sister of the lady who came to visit it was born in that house. So it's a really historic house within this area, and we intend to maintain it as part of the heritage and culture of the area. Now this is one of our, this is our first house that we've bought, so one question that might come to mind is, well, why did you pay such and such for it if now you're saying it's worth less? Now, I'm a bit of a literary type of person, so I didn't really know very much what sort of things to look for. My wife has a keener eye, so as soon as we came into the house when we were first looking at it, one of the first things that she said is this kitchen is not flat, that it's off. And I looked at it and just to be blunt, I said, looks fine to me. I mean, you know, it's an old house, nothing's gonna be perfectly straight. She said, I don't know, but I wanted this house. It's a beautiful, stately, magnificent old structure, and I just had my heart on it, and she said, it's gonna cost us. But it had some inspections, nothing, I mean, we got one of those, government loans, I forget exactly what it's called, but the
FHA.
yeah, the loan, so I thought, well, they wouldn't give it to us unless it was of the value that we, bought it for. I mean, because they don't want, the government doesn't want to lose money to put it in a house that's not worth what it's being sold for. Now, and there was some earlier problems, but about a month or 2 months ago, I'm in my study, and she comes in, and there's a big crack from the ceiling all the way down to the floor. And these are plaster wall, not the, you know, little plywood that they're,
Sheetrock.
yeah, sheetrock that they use. I mean, it's a thick, but if it starts to crumble, I mean, the whole house will go down, right? And there's this wall, and the people just covered it up with paint, the prior people. And I'm not that astute or sharp to notice these sort of things. They just turned it over, and the lady who had owned the property it was in her family for a century.
The Bloodworths.
Yeah, the Bloodworths. I mean, she was horrified when she visited. I mean, she said, you know, we sold this for like $100,000 or something. And they didn't do almost anything. I mean, they didn't upkeep. I mean, like, this is ridiculous. I didn't really know about it. I just thought it looks fine to me. I mean, it looks decent to me. But in any case, so my wife said, and the crack goes all the way upstairs. So then that even gets somebody like me, who I just, you know, I sit in my study and read history books and things like that, you know. But even me, I thought, well, I mean, this is a big problem. So that's the main thing is that this house, whatever we paid for it, unless we fix it up, particularly at this point, and she can maybe, I don't know if she has the courage or not, but she can tell you a lot more of the smaller details, but this is the main thing. So we got an estimate, and it's $50,000 to fix it. May I approach the court or tribunal? I guess I should have made several copies, but, and they're a local respected company, very honest fellow, and he said to really fix it the way it needs to be fixed, it's gonna be 50 G's. So that's money that we have to put into it, or this house is, and I am not the sort of man who is hyperbolic or gets all excited about something that's not a big deal. I tend to let things go, but this is a big deal. I mean, unless we put this money in there and fix this up pretty soon, I mean, we're gonna have some trouble. Now, I asked the man when he came to inspect it, I said, how dangerous is this? I mean, like, you know, can it just fall in a month or something? And I mean, you know, and I don't know that much about houses, but he said, well, I don't think it's gonna just, you know, crumble in a month. He's like, but it's gonna, unless you attend to this, it's gonna, you're gonna have bigger and bigger problems. And it has something to do with, she understands a little better, but the fireplace, which doesn't work anyways, it's just going down, and it's just making the whole thing sink. So that's one problem. What else the other problem is has to do with the sewage. I mean, you can't use the bathroom there every one time in 5. It just gets clogged up. And we gotta, I mean, it's a little embarrassing to discuss our matters, but so we had somebody come and take a look at that, and he went under the house into the crawl space, and he said that the way that all the plumbing was done, it was just rigged in a
Very peculiar way.
yeah, just an odd, you know, strange angles and so on. So in order to fix it, and then it just made a complete mess that just stunk under the house, because it's not functioning right. So that needs to be fixed. I don't know exactly, did he say how much that would have?
I think he said about $8,000 to do a main sewer line.
Yeah, so that's, I mean, so we have 50 and then another 8, and then the electric, what is
Well, I mean, the electrical is just old, it needs to be, I
Well,
don't
what?
know if there's any knob and tube left over or not, if it's being utilized, but I know that there was no real electricity coming upstairs, and the people that had come in after the Blumfelds and flipped the house did it themselves, and it's sort of like a jerry-rigged situation, so it definitely needs a whole new electrical panel, and the wiring upstairs is not right.
where it could cause a fire? Or?
I don't know that it could cause a fire, but it's definitely not right. It needs to be looked at by a professional, which I have not had an estimate done on that yet.
So, basically, long story short, and I won't keep you folks longer. I think to really get this house in ship shape, it's gonna be about 70 Gs altogether. I don't think that we need to dish that out right away, but by the time we fix the foundation, and then the plumbing, and then the electric, and then on top of, and then I'll just say 2 more just minor points. The house has they went and repainted it so it looks pretty. And now, but they didn't sand any of it, so the kids are just peeling the, I mean, like, it looks like a haunted house, like you visit a Disney World. You know, the paint is just peeling, and the kids are like just, I mean, in large strips of the house. I mean, when we want to beautify it, I mean, we were talking about, because we found old pictures of it, the way it looked in 1910 with the porch, and I thought, oh, you know, let's just make it look just like it once did and want to beautify it. And now, I mean, beautifying, I mean, we're not going to be doing any beautifying. We just need to make it look, I mean, look proper. So that's one thing, and then the floors, and this is the last thing. I mean, it's a minor point, but I mean, they look nice, but they need to be, sanded, because, I mean, at least once every few weeks, one of us just, boom, gets a splinter. You're just walking, you get a splinter, I mean, like, pretty often. And then I sit on the bed and she performs an operation on me, you know, pulling it out with the tweeter. And she gets down, and then it's my turn to be the surgeon, and I'm pulling it from her, and then the children, you know, they think that it's like, they get a splinter, and they think that the leg needs to be cut off, so that, you know, so we're all getting splinters. So the place has, you know, haunted house looking with the paint everywhere, getting splinters. Cracked down the thing like the House of Usher, you know, background hose, story. And then the electric. So basically that's my case. I don't really have more to say. I don't know if the tribunal has any questions or that's it for me.
We thank you.
Oh, thank you. Oh, and I'm sorry, again, I just wanted to say, we're not looking to knock this whole thing off. We just want maybe 40 grand off for about a year. That's it.
First of all, the ratio, I mean, the millage rate's been done. I don't know if y'all been following or whatever. But we went from 35.520 to 32.805, which went down 2.715. That's the largest rollback, according to Brian, he's seen in the time he's been here. So we said when we went up with values, they would roll the millage rate back. It has. All these people that were thinking they were going to get huge increases, it didn't happen. I mean, so we're doing what we're supposed to do by state guidelines. Also, you know, last year, we're supposed to ideally be at 40% on your taxes. If you have a $100,000 house, you pay on 40,000. We're constantly being audited by the Department of Audits and Accounts. Last year, we were 32.9. The market has outpaced us. And we did 20% across the board raise on everyone this year. That will come into effect on next year's. The year that we just had done was 2022. We made 9,000 changes that year. What was it, 130 million in value one time? We would have added 130 million to the digest. Our ratio decreased to 31.26. Next year, with the 20% increase that we did this year, we're hoping that this comes up. Sales, the market has slowed down a little bit. New construction had slowed down. New construction is actually picking back up. But the prices of houses has kept climbing. We have to stay with the market. We have to get back up over 36. If we went to 28, the 70,000 he asked for, our ratio on his house would be 28%. Not the 40 it needs to be, but 28%. He paid $268,000 for the house. We have it at $257,302. His wife warned him about the house. Well, anyone that comes in and talks to us about buying property, we always say, first have a lawyer handle the sale, get title insurance, have a home inspection, and you have a survey. If he had had the home inspection done, he could have lowered his, offered what he made from the offer. but I'll get on, I just want to preface that with this. This house is located at 116 North Lake Street in Haddock. It's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 3,214 square foot, a single-family residence. We have it valued at $257,302. That's $11,000 below what he paid. If we go to the comp sheet, of this house and the 3 comps, he's lowered the smallest. He's at $75 a square foot. The other houses go from a high of $118 to $98 a square foot. And he is way bigger than all of the others. Like I said, it's only $75 a square foot. The first comp was on Pine View Road. It's a 2,118 square foot house. Mr. Mantel's is 3,214. This house sold for $295,000 with a little bit less land. Or, well, the land's a little more, but the price is a little different. But it's within $400. The effective year, Mr. Mantel's house was built in 1910. We have a 1989 effective year. This house is a 1989 build, 2004 effective year. We subtracted $15,000 for that because the comp is superior. They're both average condition, both 125 grade. Down here to the decks, open porches, patios, utilities. Mr. Mantel has a value of $6,059. The subject has $16,237. We subtracted $10,178. Detached garage. The comp had one. I subtracted $13,105. Garage carports. I had to subtract $10,000 there from the comp. The accessory buildings, I subtracted $313. Total adjustments of $80,947, total $358,563. The next one, 292 Bradley Drive, I subtract $2,347, so the land's a little more valuable. It's sold for $225,000. It's 1,744 square foot, almost half the square footage, so I had to add $147,470. Price per square foot is $101 a square foot. Mr. Mantel's is $74 a square foot. Built in 1975, effective year of 2009, subtracted $20,000. Both average condition. It's only a 120 grade house versus Mr. Mantel's being a 125. $5,000 I added. Both 2 bathrooms. He had a little bit less on open porch decks, patios. I added $886. The garage carport, it was bigger, so I subtracted $4,802. On accessories and everything, this had $2,834 worth. Superior, I subtracted $2,677. Total adjustments, $123,530. Total value, $320,156. The last comp on Reagan Drive, the land value there was $4,000, so I had to add $11,945. It sold for $260,000 on July 15, 2022. It's 2,202 square foot. I had to add $99,000, $176 to equal it out. It's at $98 a square foot. It's built 1979, 2009 effective year. I subtracted $20,000. It's a 120 grade. I had to add $5,000 to bring the grades up equal. It has an extra bathroom, so I subtracted $7,500. Open porch decks and everything, I subtracted $302 to equalize those out. On the garage, I had to subtract $7,080 to make it equal. It didn't have any accessory buildings or anything, so I added $157. Total adjustments, $81,396. The subject property is a 3-bedroom, 3-bath, single-family residence located at 116 North Oak Street, Haddon. After adjustments to value, comparable number one with adjusted value $358,563 has the smallest amount of adjustment, $80,947, is therefore the most comparable. This parcel has roughly the same land value with around 1,000 square foot less living area and sold for $295,000 on September 18th, 2023. We feel our assessment is fair and uniform and that our assessment should stand. Final opinion of value, $257,302. I feel from Mr. Mantell, hopefully next time if he makes a purchase like this, he'll know to get a home inspection, everything. Like I said, his wife warned him of the condition of the house. But what we are tasked with by the state is being at 40% value. Where are we now on his, Tommy? Right at 36, aren't we? We're at 38.4. We're in the good right now. If y'all, y'all do whatever you want to, but we have to be between 36 and 44 on our ratios, and we feel that we're fair and uniform on this. All the houses I've done were a lot smaller. Actually, this house, truthfully, this was graded a long time ago. A house that big should have been graded a lot higher. The reason I went with small, when you go to that big of a house, it should start at about a 140 grade. It's at a 125 now. But we feel our value is fair and uniform.
All right, well, thank you for your presentation. Do you have anything you'd like to say on the rebuttal side, Mr. Mantell?
Yeah, just a couple of points, and I think that this tribunal knows its business, and I'm overall I'm contented that you'll make a just decision without me getting into the nitty-gritty. But a few points is this good gentleman made a lot of discussion of what his administrative and departmental requirements are and then the need of his department. That's all very well and good to discuss maybe the chief of his department, whether he's meeting his needs or not. But the efficiency of his department really doesn't have that much relevancy to the justice of this particular case. You know, how good that, if he's getting his 40% or 60%. I mean, yes, he does need to do what he needs to do, but I don't think that's I don't say that it's without weight, but I think that he may be putting a little bit more weight on those requirements instead of the justice to the case at hand. Now the second thing that he said, and this will be my last point, is he just shrugged his shoulders and said, well, I'm sorry, I feel for the man, he should have listened to his wife. Well, that's true, but the point of this tribunal, what we're trying to determine here isn't whether I might have made a prudent decision or whether I acted wisely or not. It's the value of the house, it's the just value of the house now. Maybe I botched it. I even admit it. But, the point is that are we absolutely tied in deciding what the value of the house is to what it was sold for? Is that an adamantine number that if you botch it and you made a bad job, that people can't look at? I mean, what if hurricanes, I mean, this is maybe an extreme example, went by and knocked the whole roof off? Well, nobody would say, well, you know, you paid this much for it, it doesn't have a roof. Events happen. So the point of this proceeding now is what is fair, regardless of whether I might have made a bad or a good decision before. And then just one other little point is, it seemed that the houses that he mentioned were all, one was 1980 something, the other was 70s. This is an ancient structure. There is a neighborhood that's close to us that has these new, you know, bright and fancy McDonald's type of homes that, you know, probably has, you know, maybe on paper, they're roughly the same square footage and roughly the same, this or that. But this house, I mean, it really has soul and history. It's not like those, and I'm not just saying that because I live there and it's my house. I'm sure the people who live in those houses like them too, and maybe you do, so I don't want to offend anyone. But this is a noble structure that needs to be upheld, and I don't think that comparing it to a 1979 house that doesn't have any place in the annals of the local history can compare to this, but it needs to be kept up, and well, I guess that's it. Did you have any little points that?
Well, I guess the only thing that I just keep coming back to in my mind is that it appraised at 125 when Miss Sissy Blumfeld sold it in 22 because she was backed into a corner. She sold it for 125, and the tax assessor's office agreed that it was worth that. Now, what happened was flippers came in and flipped this house and made it look pretty, and then sold it to us, but they did not put anywhere near $100,000 into this house. So that's, you know, it's still, although it looked nice when we bought it and we were a little, you know, smitten with it because it was so beautiful. Once we got in, and it passed the FHA inspection, and we thought that that was good enough. Once we got in there, we realized that the bones were bad. And we've got ourselves into a situation that is no good. And I'm not understanding how it went from 125 to 257 in 1 year, when the people that flipped this house came in and didn't do nearly that. They painted it, they put some polyurethane on the floors, they put some peel and stick tiles in the kitchen that are all coming up, it all needs to be redone.
Paper, it's paper.
You
It
know?
looks nice, it's paper. We got paper on our kitchen. It's not wood.
So that's the only thing that I was thinking is that I don't understand how it more than doubled in value in 1 year when that amount of work, not even anywhere near that amount of work, was put into this home before we bought it. That's my only point.
Thank you.
What we're tasked with by the state is to be as close to fair market value as possible, ideally at 40%. We're at 38% on this. It's not our job to protect you on what you paid. If you paid, you are the market. We are bound by law to follow the market. We're at 38% on this house right now. I feel it's fair and uniform. With them talking about the other houses, everybody, the way in valuation of houses, We always had the year it was built, and over time, people do things to their houses. That's why I like the 1971 might have had a 1989 effective year. Through the course of time, you're going to replace your sink, you're going to put a new roof on, you're going to paint, maybe put new siding on and all that. And by adjusting the effective year, we keep the value up where it should be. If you have a 1970 house and do nothing to it, it goes down in value. But if over time you've done things to bring it up, we bump it up with the effective year. But my comps were all comparable. I feel we're fair and uniform on our value.
All right, thank you, Bill.
The value they asked for.
257. He wants to commit 20,000.
I'll look for what they have. I haven't seen anything in writing, do you?
But then, if you pay 268,000.
Oh, I agree with that. I mean, this is the thing out after, you paid 125. That's what you paid.
That's right.
And his comps are basically spot on. I can't argue his comps.
Yeah, as far as the county is concerned, yeah, he paid 268. Purchase price. Market dictates, all right, I'm not good. If you pay 268 for a resident in Anchorage, then I get 268.
That's what my person. So, I mean, the only thing I can see is that unless you ask for something different, I can like value this. And I just kind of agree with that.
Oh, I gotta agree. I agree with it.
Feel sorry for him.
That's just, you know, you're a real estate man. You know that if you look at a piece of property, if somebody wants $268,000 for this residence, you better have it checked out. All right?
There's nothing we can do. There's nothing.
I'm just because he purchased the house for 268 and they didn't, you know, have an inspection.
I agree. It's just, there's nothing here. There's nothing we can do.
No, you just would, my only question, I wouldn't bring over there on the historic, historic document, when they could bring that up.
I don't know if that protects them against good value or not.
I'll give them a break on taxes, but that doesn't have anything to do with valuation. So, personally, I'm in agreement with the county on the valuation.
I agree. Yeah.
All right, Mr. and Ms. Mantell, we, agree with the county's assessment of the valuations of $257,302.
Thank you.
Did you really mean to put this stuff in here?
What's that?
Billy, you got a 150 pick stapled to this information. Do we need to hang on to it? Or? I don't see it on them. Huh?
It's probably on the notes that I have or something.
Thank you.
This is, this is two different parcels.
Yes.
Let's see.
It's two different parcels. Yeah. 199, yeah.
We're
$140.
with Stephanie Parker. Mr. Copeland, is that correct?
I'm Jonathan Alderman, Your Honor, and this is James Nobles, Ms. Parker's husband. Your Honor, Mr. Chairman.
Just a member of the party this year. I'm reading the, where did I pass it? Through this, do you know, see what I got?
You may have given it to Trudy.
Do you care if I make a picture of that when you get done?
No, that's fine. If they were present when I read this in the first part, you'd have to read this.
I don't think so. I think you started off from the very beginning.
As long as they know.
Well, okay,
Have you always done it in front of everyone?
Yeah.
Okay, carry on.
but last session I noticed, anybody that was in the audience, and then when I read it,
Gotcha. You just said, yeah,
that'd be.
yes.
Mr. Copeland, I went through the Board of Assessment Equalization paperwork as far as our relationship as independent of the state, of the county.
We heard it, and we'll stipulate to the
All
same.
right, thank you. I just want to make sure. So you have the option to present your information first or the county's presentation?
We would like to go first.
Yes, sir.
Chairman. So I had a list of who was going to be here. They don't match up with your names, but I think we had Mr. Oxford, Mr. Howard, and Chairman
Elsperman.
Elsperman. I'm Jonathan Alderman. I'm an attorney from Macon, Georgia. I'm a tax assessor in Macon, Georgia. I'm not a tax rep. I don't make my living appearing on appeals. I'm here for Stephanie Parker. I owe a lot to Ms. Parker. Ms. Parker is an attorney in Atlanta. She and I were competing for the same job in Macon. She took the job in Atlanta. I was second choice, so I'm always thankful that I have a place because she went to Atlanta. She could not be here today. She had a prior conflict. She has a busy schedule with trials and a lot of things out of state. Her husband, Jimmy Nobles, is here. Professionally, she keeps her maiden name, but they are married, and he certainly participates and works a lot of the properties that they own. I'd like to start by handing out a map of the properties. Let's see, did I give you one or two?
Oh, you give me two.
I had fumble fingers. This is a plat, it's in the file that you've seen, and I've got 3 tracts highlighted here, highlighted in yellow. There's one big tract on one side of the road, and there are 2 small tracts on the other side of the road. The small tracts are .4 and 1.99, and those are the 2 tracts that you're actually hearing the appeal on today. Originally, there were 3 tracts being appealed. Originally, 3 tracts were all denied for Akuba. The tax assessor's office, and we appreciate that and thank them for approving the larger tract for the Akuba, the 9.25 acre. When this started, Mr. Nobles and Ms. Parker filed for Akuba on all 3 properties together. Certainly over 10 acres when they were all together, something like 11.64 acres. Their home is in the middle of the big tract, and of course, as you know, you carve out the home acreage, and so that's done, and that's on the tax assessor's map. The second thing you've got there that said Exhibit A, this is a letter from your tax assessor's office from 2014, where they approved Akuba for all 3 tracts tracts combined together, and surveyed together, and in fact, the survey was done at the request of the tax assessor's office and with the input of the tax assessor's office. They carried the preliminary survey in, and the tax assessor's office went over it and said, do this, do this. And they recognized all three tracts together as one farm. And historically, they were. So I wanted you to know what properties we're talking about, and even though you're going to get to see two because they accepted one, this really has to do with all three tracts. Initially, Ms. Parker filed to have them all together just like they were. She was going to renew the covenant she'd had for 10 years for all three together. The county said, no, can't do that. These are three separate tracts. And wrote a denial and said, sorry, you have to apply separately because these are three separate tax tracts. And separate tracts can't be combined unless you do a brand new survey and have the surveyor come in and survey the whole thing. So I checked with the CUVA folks I know in other counties, and they said it is true. Some of the counties want a separate application for each tract. You should still be able to combine them together, but they want one for each tract. So Ms. Parker did another application, still within time, and did all three separately. What you don't have is the original. The original denial, which was appealed, is still kind of sitting over the tax assessor's office. They're sitting on that one. They allowed the three independent ones to come forward, and then they accepted the large tract. Maybe along the guise of giving us something and maybe we'd go away. Ms. Parker signed an affidavit, and I think the county may have just handed you her affidavit, but I cheated. I highlighted mine, and I wanted to run through the affidavit with you on the stuff that's highlighted. First of all, it's an affidavit. It's sworn to. It's notarized. It's evidence. The first thing it addresses is that 2014 CUVA approval, where these three tracts were approved combined. And you can see the 1.99 acre tract and the 0.4 acre tract are part of those three that are highlighted. Prior to that CUVA application, they went and met with Ms. Sibley, the chief appraiser at the time. She said, get it surveyed. They went and got it surveyed. They brought back the preliminary plat, and she said, you need to make this change, and this change. She didn't say, it's got to be surveyed as one tract. She told them what to do. Had she said at the time, it's got to be surveyed as one tract, they would have done that. In fact, in every appeal, they've said, if you want to tax this as one tract, we're fine with that. If that's what you need, tax it as one tract. And they said, no, it's surveyed as three separate ones. So they did what they were told to by the Jones County Tax Assessor's Office in 2014. There have been no changes. It's the same property now as it was then. Nothing's been sold off. The highway hadn't widened and taken any away. It's the exact same property. They're trying to renew the covenant they've had for 10 years. And at the time, they elected under Georgia law to combine contiguous properties. That's under Section G. Under the Department of Revenue rules, you can declare contiguous properties one tract for a CUVA. And that's the State Department of Revenue rules, and it's also in the Georgia statutes about CUVAs. And so they elected that. The county today says, you can't do that. Now, I don't understand why they say that, other than the letter they gave you today is they say, we called somebody at the Department of Revenue and they said you can't. Well, I called somebody at the Department of Revenue and they said you can. I took the classes. They taught us at the class to become a tax assessor. People that have contiguous properties can file for a CUVA together. Why does that make sense? Well, if you've got a family farm and you've got them here in Jones County, a road comes through and splits somebody's farm. Are we going to say, I'm sorry, sir, you're going to have to file a CUVA separately for your whole farm, even though you farm the whole thing together? No. The law recognizes that should be treated together, and the statute says if there's a road that comes in between it, even though it doesn't touch anymore, it's still contiguous. If there's stream that goes between it, if there's a railroad that goes between it, it's still contiguous to address that problem. And Ms. Adams said, well, we only do that if you buy some more property. If you have this CUVA and you go buy some more and you want to add it to it because it's contiguous, you can. And that's true. There's another statute that says that, up to 50 acres. While you've got your CUVA going for 10 years, you can add some more to it. That's different than your initial application. And the previous tax assessor's office recognized that, and I know. Maybe the previous assessor made a mistake. That's what Ms. Adams said. They made a mistake. You know, we don't have to continue their mistake. But it's also what the law says. So, when you go down to 2A on March 11th, 2024, they filed their combined application. In that application, they say, I'm electing to treat these 3 tracts together. And then they said, and if you want to combine them for tax purposes, that's okay. If you go to the page 3, on March 19th, 8 days later, they're denied. And they say, each legally defined tract must have its own application for consideration. They call me at that point and I say, let me do some checking. And I called CUVA folks I know in different counties, and they said, some of the counties want a separate application. You can still combine them, but they want a separate application because they have a separate tax tract. And I said, file a separate application, that's what they say. So they did that on March 27th. On April 3rd, all 3 were denied and said, well, they're all under 10 acres now. And since they're under 10 acres, you have to submit additional information for us to approve them. Incidentally, they were also supposed to go out and look at them if they're under 10 acres. And Ms. Adams did tell me she rides by these properties every day. You probably rode by them on the way out here. If you look at the map, you got Highway 11, you got the highway to Eatonton, it's in the point in between. So no matter which way you come here, you probably go by this property unless you live on Eatonton side and are coming this way. And when it came to the 9.25 acres, she said, well, I don't need these pictures of hay bales that you sent. I've seen them out there. I know it's a hay field. I've seen it harvested. So even though they denied it, even though they knew, and even though some things were submitted with the original application showing that it was in hay production, we gave pictures, we gave them the information where we paid the people that harvested it, we gave them information where we sold the hay. And they have approved that 9.25, but not the other 2 tracts. The other 2 tracts are not in hay production. But that 9.25 acre tract, it's not completely in hay production either. Part of that property is in pecans. And you don't have to have the same crop on all of your property for a CUVA. In fact, under the state statute, if you have 1 tract of land, you need to be using it, at least half of it, for agricultural production or timber, and then your whole tract is exempted. So we've got something really weird here. You've got these 2 small tracts, and that's probably pretty cagey on the tax assessor's part, is to hold back the application they filed and the appeal they filed for the whole thing together, grant part, and then leave these 2 little tracts dangling. But if you go to page 4, this is a historic farm. Stephanie Parker is the daughter of B.B. Parker. B.B. Parker is the daughter of Ethel and Cecil Roberts. This was the Ethel and Cecil Roberts farm in the 1930s. It's the family home place. Jimmy and Stephanie renovated the home place. That is their home. They do have a house in Atlanta, but that is their home, and they are here a lot. That's a good thing to do for the county, and they did it because it's the family land, and they maintain that property as the family farm. And in fact, it's on the National Register as a historic farm. And all of this property once belonged to Ethel and Cecil Roberts and was their farm. There are some other pieces too. Miss Parker, B.B., still owns a tract north of here that was part of the original farm. And even though it's kind of close to town, it's always been a farm. So if if you get down to these two particular tracts, and you go to page 5 under section B, we list these two parcels. What are we doing with those two tracts? They're in trees. They've been planted with white, red, and overcup oaks. They have a professional certified arborist that came, cleared it, got the vines out, trimmed out the dead wood, and replanted trees, and when a tree dies or needs replacing, he replaces it. They come and check the health of it once a year. And Jimmy, it's not in here anywhere, but y'all cut the grass and the underbrush around these tracks on a regular basis?
Absolutely, we maintain it, and I think we also get compliments. At least once a week, people are complimenting us on this green space. We're maintaining it, we're talking about going by and looking at the beautiful trees. They tell me how many deer they saw out there yesterday morning. So we're maintaining it, we're cutting it 2 or 3 times a year to keep the invasives and the undergrowth out.
So, we submitted the report from the arborist on these two tracks. Yours is always the sticky one.
What can I say?
And the
Yeah.
arborist makes clear, I knew it, the arborist makes clear what he's done and the work he does, and he comes here annually. They cleaned it up good in 2010, and they have maintained it since then. It was pretty heavy wisteria damage before that. They planted trees, and they continue to plant trees. And at the very end, he gives you the opinion. This is not only good for conservation purposes. He does comment that the deer eat some of the pecans and some other things on the property, but it's for commercial forestry purposes. It qualifies under CUPA, and we all know planting trees qualifies. I suspect half your CUPAs in Jones County have to do with timberland. These are hardwoods. It may take a while. We don't have any proof that we've harvested any, because only an idiot would harvest trees that aren't large in their hardwoods. But it is commercial harvestable timber for the long haul growth. In the meantime, it is helping your county, and it is part of a family farm. Now, y'all may have to pass these around, because even though we sent it with the appeal, I got kind of one set of pictures. These are pictures of the two tracks, and you can see there that there are trees planted, they're roped off, they're protected. They're not just little seedlings that fell, that aren't growing. They're active trees, they're protected, and it's actual timber that is growing there. The last thing on there is Stephanie Parker authorized me to come, so down at the end it says I'm her attorney for these purposes, so that she would have a representative here. The things that you can do, you can deny it, be like the tax assessor's office, and just say, well, that's too small to be agricultural. There's nothing that says it's too small to be agricultural. It says under 10 acres, you should have proof. It's proof folks in the assessor's office see every day. It's folks around Gray appreciate. It's things you can see on the pictures, and you have a letter from the arborist that it is commercial tree worthy property. It's not very big. And if it's treated as one tract, we've got hardwood trees here, pecan trees here, hayfield here, because it was all one farm historically. So you've got these two appeals in front of you. Our opinion and our reading of the law is all of this should be treated as one tract. And you can ignore that today if that's your choice. And sooner or later, they'll release the other appeal and we'll be back to argue all three of them together. But in the meantime, this is Georgia Code Section 48.5, 7.4.
One of your favorite readings.
That's one of my, yeah.
Well, let's read it together. We don't have to do it in unison. I'll read for all of us. But under this code section, it says, as used in this paragraph, the term contiguous means real property within a county that abuts, joins, or touches, and has the same undivided common ownership. If an applicant's tract is divided by a county boundary, public roadway, public easement, public right-of-way, natural boundary, landlocked line, or railroad track, then the applicant has, at the time of the initial application, a one-time election to declare the tract as contiguous, irrespective of a county boundary, public roadway, public easement, public right-of-way, natural boundary, landlocked line, or railroad track. It doesn't say it has to be taxed as one tract. It says if it's surveyed as one tract, maybe you don't have to make the election. But it says when you apply, not just when you add something, that's a different code section. When you apply for your CULA, you can say, I'm doing my one-time initial election for this to be treated as contiguous. And I don't understand how the tax office can read this any other way. I'd like for you to ask them, tell me how you read this language and you think it means that they can't add these three tracts together. And by the way, look at that survey you've got. See if I can find mine. If you look at that big tract, it comes down to a little point. The big tract is parcel B, 11.24 acres at the top. And if you go down here, there's a little bitty snippet called parcel C, 0.01 acres. You know what the tax assessor's office has done? They've allowed a 0.1 acre tract to be a part of parcel B and treat it as one tract of land that they've given a CULA to. Why? Well, number one, by law they should. It's not surveyed together. It's a separate tract on the plat you've got. Surely, if something's too small, it ought to be that 0.01 acre. And yet, traditionally, when the roads came through and the railroad came through, the Roberts were left with that little bitty snippet of land as part of their tract of land. They don't really have to grow anything on it because it's part of their tract of land, and you don't have to grow more than 50% of the property. You can leave a field fallow. You can let it sit there and do nothing if it's less than half. But if they tell you, oh no, these are all separate tracts, then say, well, why the heck did you count this 0.1 acre in with that tract? If that's your standard, why did you do that? Before, the tax assessor recognized this as the Cecil and Ethel Roberts farm, which it has been for a long time. That family's been in Jones County for a long time. Lots of folks know that's the Cecil Roberts family farm. And just because these two tracts on the other side of the road don't mean it's not part of the farm. There is one other tract. The Roberts family cemetery is just north of there. We don't have it highlighted. It's a cemetery. But it's the family farm, the family cemetery, and the people that farmed that are buried right there. And it was their farm. So it's one tract. You've got a statute that says these people have a right to claim them together. And if you say, well, maybe the Georgia Department of Revenue can overrule a Georgia statute, well, they can't. And in fact, if you go to the seminars, the Department of Revenue says, you know, this is what we're teaching you, but check with your county attorney. Don't blame us don't rely on us, check with your county attorney, because they need to read the law. You've seen the statute, but the Department of Revenue has a rule. That's your right, Ms.
All right.
It's Rule 560-11-6-.02. Current use valuations for conservation use property. Now, Ms. Adams told me that contiguous stuff, it doesn't apply to CUVAs. That applies to forest flips, forest land valuations. Funny enough, the exact same language is in the forest land statute. The exact same language is in the forest land rule. And if you read this rule, it's the exact same language that's in the statute. I highlighted in red, the applicant has, at the time of the initial application, a one-time election to declare the tract as contiguous, irrespective of all these things that come in between. And it doesn't say when you apply for taxes. It doesn't say you get it surveyed to have a different tax tract. It has nothing to do with tax tracts. It has to do with, you got tracts that are separated, and you can declare them contiguous as one farm. So you got the Georgia statute, and you've got the Department of Revenue rule. I don't understand, other than she said, I talked to somebody in the state that said it doesn't apply. I talked to somebody in the state that says, of course it applies, John. That's what I taught you in that class you took. So it's a little problematic because you've got these two tracks only. I don't know if you can say, treat the thing, we grant a CUVA on the whole thing. You did on the 9.25, add these to it. I don't know why you can't do that. That's what we requested. You could say, look, I think they're wrong about adding it together. We're gonna go ahead and grant a CUVA on these two little tracks. You could say, you know, I got trees on my property that I'm growing for commercial use, even if these are small tracts. That's commercial agriculture to grow hardwoods that will sell for a good bit of money once they get mature. So you could say it ought to be together. Truth is, you could say all three. You could say, you know, we only have these two. We think they should be together. We're going to grant it on these two. Or you could say, we're going to grant it on these two because there is proof of agricultural use for those small tracts. You might also say, there's something in there about a renewal CUVA, a renewal covenant. You know, if you do a renewal, your penalties aren't so bad if you get out of the covenant in a renewal period. Well, this was a renewal. This is the same CUVA. We just, the 10 years was up and we wanted to do it again, and the state thinks CUVAs are good. I think Jones County thinks there's good. A lot of our economy is based on agriculture. We want to support that, and that's the purpose of a CUVA, is to help agricultural uses stay prevalent and stay strong in Georgia. We'd ask you to support Ms. Parker's family property for that purpose. And other than saying, I talked to somebody on the phone that said it doesn't apply, ask the tax office, tell me why the Georgia statute and the Georgia rules don't apply here. And why not give them the agricultural use on these two small tracts like they've had historically? You can see what the use is. It's very clear. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Good morning. So we have these two parcels in the .19 and the .40. Yes, they were denied. The property were defined as independent parcels by the taxpayer. We're not holding the road against them. We're not holding any boundaries against them. They chose to survey them separately and keep them as separate tracts. Twice before the renewal time frame, on 9/5/23 and 12/18/23, I spoke with Mr. Nobles about, in writing, about they need to be combined. All you need to do is put a deed in, have them in one piece. I then could consider it. Otherwise, I have to consider them independently. because in Cuba, there is no combined acreage, with the exception of some newly acquired. And that's only until the covenant renews. When it renews, you then have to consider them independently unless they're combined. I wrote to Kenny Colson of the Department of Revenue and asked, I said, in general, Cuba applications are for single parcel only, unlike FLIPA, where multiple contiguous parcels can be applied to create one covenant. If someone has multiple parcels, all under 10 acres, is there another way besides legally combining the parcels for them to be in one covenant? Or does each parcel stand on its own merits for the approval process? He had a very simple response. He said, Kim, the law is very clear. Only one parcel per covenant. That's where I'm basing a lot. I was advised, Department of Revenue, one parcel. They do have the one-time thing, but I believe that gives someone 10 years to fix their issue. That gives a taxpayer a break for 10 years to fix the issue, to turn it into one parcel. So on renewal, when it is reconsidered again and everything is reevaluated, they can put it back together. He was advised for the time period to simply do a deed, combine them. Then we wouldn't have had any problems. The original, all three were denied also because he did not meet the standard for the larger tract to provide any additional information which is required on the application. He got the additional information, and yes, the one that is very agriculturally active, I did approve for them. It's a hay field. But to me, putting in a .4 acre and a .199 acre opens up everyone in the county that has a lot and happens to have a tree on it to putting in, getting this tax discount. I don't think that's fair to everyone in the county to have that sort of door opened. I did not know exactly what the decisions were in 2014. I was here, I've been here since 2012, but I was not part of the decision making or the discussion then. So I really can't say what the logic was for allowing this to begin with. And no, we do not require a survey also to rebut that point. We do not require a survey for combining properties. You can either do a survey and notify us, or you can do a deed. Simply do a deed saying these are combined for tax purposes. That's perfectly acceptable and would have combined the properties. And also for appeals, you can only appeal each parcel individually. There's no combined appeal, so we have addressed each appeal. We don't hold railroads, roads, anything else against people. They chose to elect to have it separate when they had it surveyed. They went out and had it surveyed. They could have had the surveyor do it in one piece at that time. Easily could have been done. And looking at the land in general, it's buffer land. It's really for trees. It's hard to get someone out for harvest of trees less than 20 acres, let alone less than an acre or two. So I'm just trying to be a good steward of this program for the entire county and try to make sure that whoever gets in it truly is following the guidelines and following the rules and making it so that it's fair to the entire tax base, that the right people get the exemption, the ones that truly qualify for the program. And so my recommendation is deny these for the program. Thank you.
Yes,
If I may
everybody.
rebut, and
Yes.
Mr. Nobles would like to discuss the conversation she had with the previous tax assessor, Ms. Sibley, and then I have a couple of comments.
When the issue first came up in 2010, several months before the prior CUA was expiring, I started the discussions with Ms. Sibley, who was then the chief tax assessor. At that point, she said, you need to have a new survey. I said, well, all of these parcels are on the National Register of Historic Places. It's been approved by the National Park Service. One of the few places we have in Jones County that are on the National Register. and maybe the only farm aside from the Gerald Plantation. At that point, I started a discussion with her about how the survey would look. I explained to her that these parcels were put together at different times over time. And I asked her, I said, can we list it, we have one survey. We have one complete boundary survey here on one piece of paper. We just have partial B, partial D, partial E. They're different partials. She said, that's perfectly fine. I gave her a draft of it. She made a couple of comments on it. I took it back to the surveyor, and the surveyor came back with this. We filed it. I gave a copy to Ms. Sibley. The prior CUBA was approved. The other point is parcel E and parcel D that we're talking about here today are also on the National Register of Historic Places. When we went to the State Historic Preservation Commission with our application, they asked that we specifically include all of the property in our application as a historic landscape, historic farm. And we came back and we did a fair amount of additional work. We resubmitted our application and that was approved. And I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
A couple of follow-up points I wanted to add. Did you listen real carefully to the letter she wrote to Kenny Colson? Kenny's a great guy, by the way. She said, can they do multiple parcels under one CUVA? She didn't say, these are contiguous parcels. She didn't tell him the whole story. No, if you have parcels spread around all over the county, you can't do one CUVA for all of them. She didn't say multiple parcels that are contiguous, because that's the key difference. Now today she says, well, you could do that initially the first time and you have 10 years to fix it. There's nothing in the code, there's nothing in the regs that say you have to fix it. Initial means when you apply for your CUVA, as opposed to the other statute where you would add property if you buy a contiguous tract and you want to add it to your CUVA. There's no idea of, you do this initially and you have time to fix it. If the surveyor whose name I highlighted was alive, we could pay a little bit of money and have him make this one tract. He's not. We can't find anybody that has his records, and it's been so far back, may not be on the computer, they would do that. And in most counties, if you say put it in the deed, and you put tract 1, 2, 3, that's still 3 different tracts for tax purposes. You have to combine the boundaries together. So what these folks heard was do a new survey. It's going to cost $8,000 to do a new survey, and they spent that money once, and it was approved. Talk about uniformity. CUVAs last for 10 years. I don't know when Miss Sibley left, but if there's a CUVA that she approved, like ours, and they're still under CUVA, and you say, well, no, you can't, forget the law, you can't combine things, then we're not being treated the same as someone else. And to say, you heard her say, well, these are so small, it wouldn't be fair to other people to count this as a CUVA. There's nothing in there that talks about how small. I'm from Bibb County. We have a few little tracts where people are doing vegetable growing organically and they sell it at the farmer's market. That doesn't mean that's not agricultural use just because they do it on 1 acre of land. So to say it's too small, what she said was, this is really just a buffer. Buffer for what? The rest of the farm on the other side of the street? It is good that it's green space and that it's tended to, but it was planted by an arborist. It's maintained by an arborist. It's maintained by folks that come in and cut the underbrush and grass. So to say, well, it's just too little and it's not really growing trees. You can see that it's growing trees. And you can see how they got there and how they got planted, and it was intentional, not accidental. Under one of those code sections, it tells you the things to consider, whether it's agricultural, the type of topography of the land. You know, if it's a gully that's eroded away, it may be hard to say that's agricultural production. Is it an agricultural product? You have evidence that it is from an arborist. Tax assessor says, well, it's just buffer. But you have a man says, I've maintained this track, and these trees are gonna be sellable when they hit maturity. The other 3 or 4 things on there, these little tracks qualify. We would ask you to be consistent with what Jones County has done before, be consistent with the CUVA that was here before, and grant the appeal, declare these CUVA, and maybe even say to the tax assessor, we read the statute. Had you asked about that statute, I bet Kenny Colson would have said yes, and had you said, the question is this contiguous language, it's not multiple parcels just anywhere, they're contiguous. And I suspect she'd give a different answer. Thank you.
Anything else, Kim?
In this county, and as I did advise him, we do accept it by deed, that if he has the language in there that the parcels are to be combined by tax purposes, a deed is sufficient. We do not require a new survey. That's just a matter of policy for us. And in my question to Kenny Colson, it did reference legally combining them. The only way to legally combine things is to have them touching. There's no way to combine properties that don't touch. So even though it was not specifically said they're contiguous, by saying, is there any other way besides legally combining them, means they have to touch. So that was a consideration in my question to him. Thank you.
May I see the plat,
You wanna see the big one?
please? One plat book and page, correct?
Yes, sir, and approved by planning and zoning. And it's recorded. I don't know that this has the recording info on it, but the little plat has at least the page.
It does. So if you did, and just, you're an attorney?
Yes, sir.
I am not. Thank you. So a deed requires a legal description. Could you not change the legal description to include this plat as part of the legal description as opposed to having multiple plats and doing a meet and bounds?
If we did a new deed, we'd do the plat, but you'd still have partial B.
Your partial 1, 2, 3, 4, yeah, whatever it would be. But you wouldn't have to worry about meets and bounds as far as the legal descriptions. You
Right,
could say
we
is
reference
referenced
the
in this plat.
But it's still gonna be individual tracks.
Correct. Would that create a cloud on the title?
No. Now, the problem is, how does someone deed it to themselves?
Correct.
There's no provision for that in Georgia law. It's okay to deed it to
Well, yeah.
someone else.
Scrivener's deed, but that's about it. That's all I can think of.
The plat came after the original tracks. Remember, this has been around for a long time. So
Agreed.
if the tax assessor's office will stipulate today that they'll grant the CUVA if we go record a deed that has these individual tracks on it, we would do that in a heartbeat. That's news to us. In general, when you say, you either have to survey it as one tract or you have to deed it as one tract. But if they're saying publicly to y'all and to everybody in Jones County that that's how they're gonna put tracts together, we can have a deed by the end of the week. I don't think it means anything for Stephanie Parker to deed it to herself, but we'll do the deed and we'll record it. And if a deed that's meaningless makes them happy, we're happy to do that. But that's not what has been communicated before.
Understood. So for the sum of $10 therein, you could write a piece of paper for us and file it to appease what Jones County's.
25 now, but yes, that's the recording fee.
Understood.
Right? So if you want to approve our CUVA stipulated that we get a deed filed in 2 weeks?
It wouldn't take long.
Back in town this weekend, so it would.
It wouldn't take long.
We have to get it to a notary and get it executed, so it would take us.
Correct.
a few days.
Is that something that'd be acceptable to the tax assessor's office?
What we've done before is on things like this, we can kind of just put just hold this as is and meet again at the next,
September the 12th?
meeting.
Yeah, that's a decision that our chief would have to make
We have to
because
check
it is
with
above our
them.
level. So, but we can discuss it to him to see if that can become the resolution for this whole situation.
So-
I would only footnote that if she represented to you that that's what it takes, to tell us now, well, the chief has to approve it, means she made you a false representation,
No,
because
the-
either it is or either it
The
isn't.
issue is the timing of it. If this was done in, I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
If this-
She can hear on the air.
Right,
If this
true.
was, if the deed had been done in 2023 when I advised it, there would be no issue. It would have been all together. It's because it's after January 1st in
New
2024 for this year that I can't, it's not something that's just normal course now. So
Mm-hmm.
that's something I would defer to my chief to make sure that we're in proper for. I believe we can make it work, but that's above my authority to say definitively. So that's why I don't want to make a definitive statement here.
Thank
today.
you.
All right. So, personally, I don't see why we can't grant it.
It has to be continuous. And
It
the
is,
point-
it is.
Yeah, Morgan County, eminent right domains, the farm down the middle, they have 5 parcels. It's still all under conservatorship. And they only have corn on one and trees on another.
Right.
And I know Rodney Souls, he won't touch it unless it's commercial. I know that person.
You won't touch it unless it's commercial.
Yeah, he won't touch it unless it's commercial.
Well, you know it's commercial now, but it's historic property. And that seriously, that didn't say we're gonna be, so.
Yeah, so we can solve it today, but let them follow the deed, just make it part of the plan.
So how do you feel about granting the CUVA?
Yeah, Cuba.
Grant the CUVA under conditions of
Deed being filed.
what?
A deed being
A
prepared.
deed field form for all 3 tracts.
Correct. Combining under one deed.
All right.
You believe that?
I agree.
Okay, agreed.
All right, the board has decided to grant the CUVA to all 3 tracts based on the requirement to make sure that the survey is completed.
Deed.
The deed is completed for the 3 parcels
And to combine.
in combined property.
To combine them.
To put all 3 parcels under one deed, so that the legal description shows the plat and page book for all parcels involved. And I would request that you have that done no later than the middle of September.
Yeah,
And if you could just have a line in the deed, just saying it's to combine for tax purposes, that will make sure that there's legal clarity there to make this easier for the long term.
Does not create a cloud on the title that way.
Nope.
Nope, does
Same
not.
person owns it.
Correct.
Before and after.
You're good.
Yeah.
Same property.
You're good.
And do y'all want to tax it as one tract? It'll still say parcel 1, parcel 2.
It'd be easier and everything if we could just put it into one tract for 2024. We'll get a new,
That would be great.
information, yeah.
That's easier for y'all to value and easier for us to keep up with.
But I don't think the cemetery is currently taxed
Yeah.
in there.
It's exempt as a cemetery.
Yeah,
It also has a gas line running right through the middle of it.
so the cemetery, if we leave out, would be easier.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Would you like your documentation back?
He didn't hear you.
It's okay, this is just. I think this is just ours anyway. Copies are-
It was copies that they give, but he highlighted the parts that he wanted to bring out.
Would you like to take a 10-minute?
You need it in your paperwork back that's highlighted so you don't have to look up the statute again?
No, I got my,
He has it memorized.
he didn't keep all my statutes, even though some, for some reason, his copy stuck, so I copy every time. But I've got
All right,
it.
thank you, gentlemen.
I appreciate that.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.
You want to take a 10-minute break before we go for
What's on the schedule? The Sampson Merger Sub LLC?
They are deferred to another date, both, Sampson
Oh, that's-
Berger and, Ingalls.
Okay, I see that.
So next week.
Tiffany
Alderman.
Robinson and Christopher Todd Beasley's next.
Antonio Trammell,
He withdrew.
Palmer.
He withdrew.
Oh, I can read too. I just need to read. Where are we down? Give me a hint where we
And
are.
Tiffany Robinson.
Tiffany M. Robertson. Mr. Todd Beasley.
Yes, sir.
All right, Mr. Beasley, I'm required by law to read this greetings. Were you here through any
First time,
presentation?
sir.
First time. So we're the Board of Equalization. My name is Lenny Elsperman. This is Larry Oxford. This is Dan Howard. We are appointed by the grand jury to hear appeals of property tax matters that include the value, uniformity of value, taxability, denial of homestead exemption, and denial of special assessments. We are not connected with the tax assessor's office or any other county officials. We will listen to both sides of the appeal and make a decision based on the information presented by both parties in this hearing. We hope you took the opportunity to read the rules. The regulations were sent to you and a notice of date, time, and hearing. Thanks for being here. The board will give the property owner the option to present the information first. If, however, the property owner wishes, the board will require the tax assessor to present the information first. The board will allow each party to present information without interruption. Upon completion of each party's presentation, both parties will be given the opportunity to cross-examine, rebut, or question each other in an orderly fashion as directed by the board. When all information has been presented, the board shall deliberate and make a decision. The deliberation shall be among only the board members, and no further input shall be allowed from the property owners or the tax assessors. Upon completion of the deliberation, the board shall make a decision. The decision shall be announced at the conclusion of the deliberations. The written and signed decision shall be delivered by hand with written receipt or by certified mail to the taxpayer. The original copy of the final decision will be filed with the County Board of Tax Assessors. If either party is not satisfied with this decision, the party has a right to appeal further this decision to the Supreme Court of the county. Are there any questions with the proceedings?
No,
All
sir.
right.
Mine's gonna actually be pretty simple. We bought the house in 2016. It was put in July 5th of 16. And looking at everything on it, the taxes went up this year. I understand, looking at the numbers, the land value went up. I understand that. It's finite land, supply and demand. Everything that I could find online or anything that I found said that a mobile home has 27.5 years lifespan. So my question is, why is the house still valued 8 years later? Well, I didn't sell it for that. That's my only question. That's it.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, this property is located on Pitts Chapel Road. It has a 2016 Southern Energy mobile home. It's valued at NADA value. For mobile homes, we use a third-party valuation system for mobile homes because there's so many different types. So they gather all the information on value. So we put it in the year, make, model, all that to get an NADA value. This mobile home is actually undervalued at the moment. It is erroneously in on fair condition when it's average or better condition. So it is currently valued at $81,093, but if it was actually on the correct NADA value, it should be $103,246. So that's an error on our part that when it went out. I said the NADA is the one that puts what current value is it due to the market factors and depreciation and all that go in there for the year, make, and model of it. The mobile home value has stayed the same from last year, and the accessory value was unchanged. But a 299C value from a previous appeal came off, resulting in an increase of $784 to the total value of the property. We believe that we are being very fair and uniform by using a third-party system to value this mobile home. The valuations, the value of things have gone up in general, and they've only had a minor increase, even with the great increase to the sales in the area, especially with mobile homes. So we believe that retaining it at $97,024 is fair, uniform for the property.
How big is it?
The mobile home,
2,432 square feet.
yeah, it's a big mobile home.
Sorry, it's a 32 by
32, 76.
32 by 76.
So,
Yeah.
and we're gonna go ahead and
Okay.
take a picture too. I said it's at least an average, if not better, condition for that age. So we're currently valuing it as if it was in fair condition, which would mean that it would have issues.
Cinder block underpinning.
Yes, yes, with stucco.
Thank you.
But it's nice. Yes, the total went up to $784 from last year because of a 299C of a previous appeal. Correct. That changed the value. That was the only change to value from last year. $700 in value. $784 in value.
You done your math?
I've done my math.
So we have a 2016 mobile home.
Market
I got that.
price 195.
8 years old. They don't have any,
That road's up $100 a square foot.
do what?
That road's up $100 a square foot for mobile homes.
Did they state that?
No, I know that.
That's the one
That's
they're
not-
on. Oh, yeah, they said.
I just said
Was it no?
100 square foot for 139,000. So, yeah, they're very low. This is good.
They all have property close to
Let's
house.
see, what was the valuation last year?
It was,
700, is it 708? Is that what it is right there?
yeah, he's asking to go to split the difference to 85.
But it was valued as erroneously, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, it's that's it. If I were to list that house, I'd do $1.5. Yeah, we could.
So he's getting a good deal.
That's a 10% increase.
It's a better
Is that
deal
is that
than I
right?
think, yeah, it's a better deal than I think. But, you know, in terms of value, if I'm at, yeah, I'm still less than 36%. And actually, if she's right, that house is in better condition. I say agree with tax. I agree with him.
On this value here, or this value,
I agree with the new value.
97.
Because that's the land, and it's got 2.3 acres.
There you go.
Of land. Maybe 1 acre, because then it's a
So
big
just
lot.
roughly say 3,000.
It's
Where's
a
it located?
flat lot, so it's decent lot. If she's right, the value's there. It's a big home. So if you take that, just 155, sorry. Let's leave it like that. $40 basically is worth plus land. And he gets very expensive with this. What do you feel like?
Edge Chapter Road, they got that too. Land value $15,000.
Yeah,
That's $5,000 land, $5,000.
2.3 acres.
Just for the land.
Yeah. 2.3 acres.
Which is within the ballpark.
God, yeah, it's $6,000 an acre.
Do what?
It's about 6,000 an acre.
Yeah.
That's what they have, which is not right.
Well, 3 acres, right?
2.3.
Oh.
So the bottom line is they got the current value $97,000 on it.
Correct. He's asking for, he says, so he's asking for 87.
I missed that page. One was 85, 97, 94.
Yeah.
Which basically, with NADA takes into consideration the age of the mobile home, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yes, used car, but it's the same thing, but it's, they have different grades. And the AD books, some have a grade 1, grade 2, grade 3. You know, it depends on what the manufacturer is and what's inside, just like a used car, whether it's trade-in value or whatever. So she rated it as an average home. That's about right. His home setup was with, Simmons was last at the head, single block, independent. So it's like, so yeah,
That's nice, huh?
it's a better home. And it's huge. So I mean, he's actually, I said, about $40 to go. Yeah, do you feel something should change?
Say leave it alone.
Do you feel something should be changed?
I don't think it should need to be changed. It's evaluation. I guess it could. Based on the NADA for the trailer, it takes into consideration the age, which they don't put the value on. So I don't have any objection to it.
I'm good. I'm good.
All right, Ms. Robertson and Ms. Beasley, after consideration, the Board of Equalization agrees with the county tax assessor's evaluation of the properties, and the final estimated value of $97,024 will stand.
Appreciate your time.
Thank you guys very much.
Who's next?
Right on time.
All right, we have the ET4 Pool 2LP. Pardon me?
All of those rescheduled.
All of these all the way down?
The E4, Pool 2 LP until Larkin Street Homes LLC.
Ms. Williamson is here.
Okay. She's
The
supposed to be,
next one will be at the very bottom,
yeah,
Yeah,
it says
we said
115.
Tamika Williamson.
10:45.
It's got two times. 10:45 and 11:15.
Well, the 10:45 was if these did not, as of this
Oh,
morning.
okay.
No,
So you give
I didn't get the
options
phone, I didn't get the phone call until we had started about these
I'll say reschedule, what,
reschedule.
what's the date of that, so I know it'll be good.
September 12th.
It's the next one in 2 weeks.
So basically,
We're down to the very last name. Trammell withdrew, Cook moved to the 12th. So,
that's moved to the 12th.
Here, you said, Cook is the 12th?
yes,
Okay.
And Tamika's the last one for today.
mm-hmm.
Which one was the Tamika Williamson? Wait, I didn't get, okay.
Hey,
Tamika, I required to read out the rules of the hearing. Were you present at any time when I read them the last time?
Yes, I was presently
Or do you understand, and is it all right if we just skip the reading of the thing?
Yes.
But you have the option to either go first or let the county go first on the presentation?
I'll go.
Yes, ma'am.
Good morning.
So I'm here to talk about my house. I purchased this house last year in June, so that was after, I guess, whenever the taxes were assessed. But my thought is that it would have been part of the home purchase price at the time of when I made the purchase last year. So since that time, since I purchased it, I know the market has declined about 4 to 5% across the board, or more in some areas. But when I look at the homes in our neighborhood, I know there's a home on our block valued at about $353,000, but there were some others about $357,000, $360,000. And so looking at that from a comparative analysis, that just shows the value. I can't sell my house today and get the same value that I got last year. Compared to other homes I've had, I will be able to sell them at a higher price the following year later. But understanding that I know there are market adjustments that happens as the economy changes. Having purchased homes in new communities, I expected a large change to happen with taxes, because taxes are typically being settled, are being figured out. But in an established community that's adding homes, I've never seen an increase like this ever. And so that caused concern, because I was trying to understand why was such a drastic increase of $500 in my mortgage because of taxes. So that is the reason why part of the reason why I'm appealing, because it caused us to look at what the assessed value is and what based on what the current market is. And so based on that, we see that there's a decrease in what the value that's being presented. So that's what I'm asking to be reconsidered.
Thank you.
Thank you. Dave.
Is that the typo?
I'm trying to figure it out too.
Which way to go?
We'll find out.
Yeah.
Right.
Give me just down.
Land value highlighted here. Yeah,
That's huge.
Miss Williams' house is located in River North. It's on Shady Greens Drive. It's a single family house, 4 bathrooms, 2,480 square foot. Our three comparables that we have, 2 of which are located in River North, right adjacent to Miss Williams' property. One on Ruby Court, one on Fairway Circle. Which both of them sold last year as well. The one located on Ruby Court sold June 14th for $334,000. From there, the one on Fairway Circle sold July 10th for $405,000. They're only 30 square foot difference. So as far as the market decreasing, I don't know where that come from. Cause like everything else we've seen across the county, we went up roughly, the market has went up roughly 50% the last 3 years. We hadn't seen anything coming down yet. But my comp number 3 is the best one, best comparable for Miss Williams' house. It was slightly bigger at 30, it was 30 square foot bigger. And that was the only change I really had to make. Which gave me a difference of $4,080 and an adjusted value of $400,920. And I feel like with only having to make that one change, then our value of $357,900 is fair and reasonable. Similar properties are selling for much more than what we got our value at. Do y'all have any questions?
All right. Tommy,
Yes, sir.
you have your final value of $357,900, right?
$375,900.
Well, what's the difference? What's the difference in your comparison and your estimate value? Is that a typo
I
or?
think it's just a typo. It should have been 75 and not 57. You wasn't here last week. We started letting Ms. Donna try to help us with this, and she helped on one last week. And we're just still working out a few issues as far as typos and things like that go.
So what's the value that we have on the front cover of $375,900
That
is
is
the
correct.
value that you're going with?
Yeah, that's the,
I can't read it.
sorry, yeah.
And you're fine.
It does say 375,900 in our system.
Okay.
Thank you.
Ms. Williamson, you have anything?
Can I have, as far as the market going down, this is 2024 sales that we have for this year.
Ms. Williams?
I'm fixing your one. If you look at this, I don't think you'll see sales going down at all. These are the current sales right now for 2024.
According to MLS, it's up 4.8% in this county since January.
Values.
Yep, 4.8
So
since
now
January.
there's a 4-bedroom that went for $357, that's around the corner, and there was a 6-bedroom that went for $360. So another 360, 6-bedroom, 6
These are January and February figures.
Yeah,
That
but
was fine.
they can, well, it takes a while for it to come to the tax assessor. And deeds are recorded immediately, pretty much, but the actual data takes a while to filter back down the road. You know, if we had a problem with the clerk of courts, we might have to talk about that, but we don't.
That's good.
They're pretty much on the ball.
prior to this? When did it go up? I don't see.
The last sale was 349, and this sale was 386, I believe. The only problem with
Those are comps.
well, here was not a good comp. It is not. The house is, oh my God, the house is redone. And a hot tub, had all kinds of stuff we got to it, screen porches. But I don't really have a whole lot of adjustments for re-updates.
I'm trying to find that. I mean, we're trying to find it. This one, I don't have it.
Yeah, you do, it's underneath the front page.
Up underneath the front.
One more. Is that what you're trying to find?
Trying to find this one.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't have a copy of that. Okay, thank you. That's what I was hunting for.
So I just had the driveway, garage, floor, screen, porch, hot tub, pads, extended screen porch, added several feet, and had the gas for kitchen also includes.
Dan, can you figure, I don't mean to interrupt it, but can you figure, what's the percent increase?
And the sale price?
375 to
And the value.
333. I mean, if it's in the percentile. you have-
375 and 332.
Yeah.
Not even a percent.
3%.
3%? Well, the average across the county is 20 from the tax assessors, right?
It was already up from the previous. I'd like to see the property card, but I don't think I have to anymore. This is, I like the number better personally, should me.
I do too.
I don't agree with, I don't agree with this next here. The difference is all the house that we've seen that we did.
You got to put a $50,000 on 0.3 acres.
Yeah, I don't like it. That's kind of the question I had too, is about the land, it's outrageous. So I'm kind of curious what he's got, that lot and this lot tax value as far as land's concerned. I mean, these are big, see how big it is, but that's the same, and it's right on the corner.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm curious what the landowner is on that lot. Because if this is 50,000 for 0.3 acres, wouldn't it make sense that 9.6 acres, that would be extra $200,000?
And then, yeah, well, okay.
I mean, I'm questioning the land value. Price per square foot is higher than the street.
Yeah.
Whatever. So 325 for the value of the house. So you have 131 square foot per acre for the, that's good. And, that is higher because the condition of the house is much higher. It's not an average condition, it's actually a very good condition.
This one?
No, yeah, it's very good. See, that's the problem with doing what I do. Now, I know the Holly Rich house. I know that one personally. It's a good house. I'm sure hers is a good house. That's tight. Holly Rich is just Piedmont. That shouldn't be a comp because you've got really Piedmont is two different, totally two different things.
they're adding 27, because it's larger than the .3.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Where's the land value right there? Where's the land value here? Right there?
Mhm. That's what he's adding to this one to get that.
Let me go find it.
That's a half an acre more. And if that's at 50,000, then that's about right.
That's low. Is it not?
Yeah, well, if you take that, that's the right value, half acre, 27. A little bit more.
Oh, okay.
See what I mean?
But it's not deducted.
He's adding it,
All right, half
He's
acre.
adding it in.
yeah.
He's taking
He should be
this.
taking it out though.
There you go. That's what I,
Yeah,
Yeah, that's what I'm seeing too.
he should be taking that out.
Let me see what we got here. Yeah, even that's got a land value of 50,000, that's way too high. Let's go back and look and see what the land value is on 303.
well, that's just like you said, that's the best comp.
27 is a better condition comp. But we're not supposed to do that.
Square footage is smaller. Evaluation.
Mhm. Right here. Well, they're about the
That's
same.
an acreage, that's, yeah, the comp's about the same. But the square footage is computation.
Yeah, 131.
Okay,
is
so
about
here's my
130.
issue. Okay, so this lot right here, which is .1 miles away, that land value is 23,000. It is literally right around the corner.
Half acre.
Mm-hmm.
Half acre
I'm-
different.
Difference, yeah.
Yeah, it's bigger. It's a 4.2.5. Built in 2022. 0.83 acres and it's 23,000. That land value at all.
Yeah, that's a big.
Anybody got any adjustments?
We adjust the land value down to what it should be. We're coming closer to what she had. So we do.
Yes, instead of this.
Yeah. That's using the land value for the lot next door, which is a half acre bigger, but we don't know what part of the land's usable.
They'll come back and talk about the terrain. The terrain's perfect, and the other ones are not.
And that's why the half acre difference would give it the terrain.
So this was the figure that you
Yeah.
says back value,
If you adjust the land value to what it could be or should be, that seems more in line.
right?
It's still the same square footage in the house value hasn't changed, I
Right.
agree with the house value.
Right.
The only thing we're arguing is the land value.
Right.
Do you agree with that?
knew something was wrong with the land value.
That's right. That's why when you first look at that, you say,
Yeah, that was realistic.
that was in the ballpark right there.
Exactly.
And that's the way it worked out on, I didn't do the math, but that's the way it worked out on it. Huh?
Yeah, I agree with this. So, that's fair. And that conforms to the neighborhood too.
Everybody all right with that? We're good. I'm good.
All right, Ms. Williamson, we talked about the high land value and the valuation of the total cumulative value, and that we're gonna reduce it down to $348,900. $348,900.
Reducing the land value from 50,000 to 23,000. We agree with your assessment of the actual house.
House, yeah.
Yeah. The comp to the left is 23,000. It's a half acre bigger. It's similar. So, that's it. Thank you. Is this it?
What was the land value
Except we
again?
gotta sign it.
We discussed the land value on
okay.
adjacent properties, 3 acres at $50,000. And next door was 0.83,
23?
23,000. And so.
What did you reduce?
The land value.
No, we reduced the tax assessor's valuation from 375 based on the land valuation. Without using any figures, based on land valuation, we reduced it down to 348, whatever it was.
Yeah, it's on
Yeah.
the.
348,900.
348,900.
Tommy's spot on with the actual accessory value. Yeah, he's spot on with that, for what we tell. That's fair. And that agrees with the uniformity of the neighborhood, so it's fair. And I always have to commend Tommy and Bill. They do such an excellent job
They do.
of putting this together and making it work. They do a really good job over there. Ben?
Okay.
You got something set by April 1st.
I believe this is it, isn't it?
I don't know.
Yes.
The law firm is good.